This morning I'm gonna make new toe buckle straps using old straps, full straps. So it's not really a difficult one, but this time you do need a few different tools. Start with, you need a leather punch. This is an actual like punch you hit with a hammer. There's also the kind that is like a grippy tool with a little head that has different sized holes on it, punches. I like this one the best. Lets me get any placement I want on the leather, where the other one isn't so much. It's more like a paper hole punch for leather. You're going to need a good X-Acto knife, craft knife, whatever you want to call it. You are going to need, I use a pair of just channel locks. I'll show you why in a minute. Measuring tape. And eventually, you're gonna need rivets and a rivet punch. None of this stuff is really that expensive. Tandy Leather sells this one here, the two-piece one, little small one. I think it's like $5, and it comes with a variety pack of rivets. I buy lots of different kinds of rivets and different sizes, colors. There's no way to buy like a small quantity. Everything you buy is like 50 of each. So you end up with a lot of it real quick. I'm using some old straps that aren't necessarily completely in the best condition. They're not weak, they're not rippable or anything like that. They're just, the finish doesn't look all that great on them, but this is for repair on an older set of pads anyway. I'm using these because I'm gonna steal all the buckles and use the buckles. That'll save me about $3 to $5 per strap I make by reusing these. And good white strap leather is really hard to find, actually. So what I did was I took a couple of straps and I looked at them and found the best spots, and I've already cut them. Now most of the time the toe buckle straps are about 2¼ inches long, but you have to remember that's doubled over leather, so they're actually roughly 5 inches of leather, and then they get wrapped over like that. Your buckle goes here and this end attaches to the pad. So what I did, let me find a good one here, is I found sections of strap where 2½ roughly, or just about 2 inches of it, had a pretty good finish on it still, and the other side maybe wasn't as good. So in a case like this one, I may have had, in fact that is it, may have had like a good section of finish that was nice, and a little bit before it that wasn't as nice, and a little bit after that wasn't that nice. So I cut that in the middle to make two, where once I roll that over, I'll have a good finish on the front, and it just looks a little better on the pad when I'm done instead of the rough edge. The next thing you do is you carefully remove one buckle from a strap. Easiest way to do that is to just get a screwdriver underneath the rivet that's there, pry it loose a little bit, and then I take a set of side dikes cutters and snip the rivet off, pull it through. You want to be careful with that. You don't want to damage the center hole, is why I'm saying that, the slot. Take your strap, put it, fold it over in half, and then, this is for sanity's sake, take these and squeeze the folded edge, not the open edge, obviously. Squeeze that, get it to almost crease. It won't crease, it'll still unfold, but this will help you get and hold your center point. From there, overlap your piece that you removed the buckle from, and you now have a pattern where you can draw your slot nice and easy. So there's my slot. You'll notice none of these are perfect. I think back in the day, every piece of this stuff was handmade. This is slightly off center. It's not right in the middle. I try to adjust that a little bit by shimmying it, sliding it. Like when I do my pattern, I kind of do like that before I draw my pattern. I don't think it matters. These buckles were fine. Once you've done that to all of your sections of strap, you move to the next part of cutting that out. So I'm going to pause and change the camera view. Okay. You need a solid workspace. This desk really isn't all that solid, but I'm right above the leg of the desk, and this is not that difficult of a task this time. Don't forget to mention in the tools, you need a mallet. So I've already determined the size hole I'm going to want to use. I'm not sure what that is, maybe 3 millimeter, 2 millimeter. And I have a block that I use so I'm not messing up the surface of my desk. And what I want to do here is I want to punch a hole at the top of this slot, and I want to punch a hole at the bottom of this slot on each one of these pads or straps. This actually might end up being a little bit big, but I can adjust that for the next one. So you get a little indent from you'll notice that's the size of the hole that it made, but the outer side of this kind of does a little indent on the leather. That'll come out. I mean, you can see on the back side, there's the hole I made. So it's not actually as big as maybe it visually appears right there. I'm gonna do one strap in this video, one buckle. So I'll set that aside. I also have just this piece of laminate board here I use so I don't, again, mess up the surface of my work area. And now I'm just going to take and connect these lines to the circles, which will cut that slot out. There we go. Now I have a slot that the center pin will smoothly if I can line it up right. There we go. Now I have the center pin slot. Might actually have to widen that a little bit. It needs to be as wide as this circular base on the pin. Otherwise the pin won't swivel easy, it'll be stiff. So I might have gone a little narrow on that, but that's an easy fix. and just simply widen it with the knife. There we go. Moves nice and smooth now. And it'll get a little better over time as it's used. Remember, this is a part of the strap that was in the middle somewhere. It didn't get a whole lot of flex over the life that it had already. But that moves well enough for me that I know I could use that as a toe buckle pretty easily. Okay, next step. Now that you have your buckle on there and you want it in position here, keep in mind, here's what a buckle looks like, factory made or whatever you want to call it. So you need this rivet, A, to hold the thing together, and B, to stop this from coming loose and sliding around. So you want your rivet about in line with or halfway, split the difference underneath that end of the buckle end. And just the easy way to do that is to drop a dot with a pen right there. For this, to start with, I'm going to remove the buckle. It's so much easier to work that way. And I am going to grab a smaller punch. I have a hard time eyeballing the punch size, so sometimes this is 2 attempts. I usually end up too small to start with instead of the right size. And again, we're just gonna punch a hole right there. Onward. And fold it over. This is why having that little crimped fold over with the pliers comes in really handy. And I'm going to insert my pen and make a mark on the other side. Oh, did not go through. So now I have holes and they line right up. I'm gonna go with nickel-plated, shiny rivets. I'm using cap rivets, dome cap. There's different sizes, so you have to put it together. You have to measure it out to know that you have the right length. You want it to be as close to the edge as possible once it sticks through, because then you have less that you have to compress. It starts tighter. And you want to be able to get the cap to snap on. Now obviously I need to put the buckle in there, so that was just measuring. And then also it's important to put the buckle or the rivet the right way for the finished look. You want the cap on top and the crimp on bottom. So that's my correct direction, which means I'm going to put the stem or whatever it's called from the bottom up. And now that it's got the buckle in there, I'm going to go to a longer rivet. So you see it just barely sticks through. And then I press my cap on there. it'll kind of snap on, or you'll feel it snug in. So there. Then need your crimping punch. Now this piece is designed for actually either way, but these are dome caps. So this is concave, which means I'm going to use this end on the cap. Now the trick on these is getting the buckle out of the way so you don't cause a problem by getting the buckle in your way. Again, you need a solid surface. So I'm going to put the dome cap on the concave base. It's technically called an anvil, I believe. And then my punch also has a dome, a concave end, and a flat end. I'm going to start with the concave end, the domed end, and line that right up over top of the other end of the rivet. Make sure nothing slides around. You want to stay centered on that, otherwise you'll cause it to bend and angle. And then, for good measure, I flip this around to the flathead. Give it another couple whacks. And there we go. We made it. It's on there. Check it, make sure it's tight, doesn't pop apart. Remember, there's gonna never be tension this way on your rivet. I'm sure if I really yanked hard enough, I could probably get that to pop apart. But there's not gonna be that tension. This is gonna be screwed to the pad. So the tension's going to be this way. And that is good and solid. You have to work this loose a little bit. I may even spray a little lubricant in there. It's a little rusty on that pin, but it'll work itself loose enough. So I have to make 4 of these. Next step will be I will punch a hole through right here. Once I get them all done, I'll measure that out so that they're all even, and then I attach them to the pad using a T-nut and a screw and a washer. And then you can go through all your scrap materials and find your best sections and make your actual toe straps. One thing I like to do, I'm going to use a piece of scrap in a second here to show you. To make this point end, when you're doing this, a lot of times you'll get separation in there. So when I cut it, I always draw a pattern from a good one, but in this case I'm just showing. And I also don't use these scissors because they're serrated. It does a little ripping action as it's doing it. So, just for fun, after I do that, I'll take some super glue and just go over the edge with the super glue. You could use VLP, vinyl leather glue, anything to stop. You can, I don't know if it'll focus on that, but you can see there's a layer inside of there. But gluing it just causes it to not separate, which makes this really easy to, it stops it from being a problem getting it to feed through when you're strapping up. Okay, now that I have all of my buckles assembled, I'm going to be attaching these with number 10 T-nuts on the back and number 10 screws with a washer. Standard way of doing it. We need to get the hole through the end of the pad. Use a hole punch again that fits the bolt screw. And one thing you want to watch for is you've got to make sure that you place it where the washer is going to be on the pad or on the strap. So you don't want your hole where the washer ends up overlapping. So easiest way to do it, again, just place your washer. You want a little bit of extra there, not a whole lot. And mark your hole. Do that on all of them. Handcrafted, as they say. They must have imperfections. I don't know if the hole punch is going to go all the way through. I may end up having to do it in pieces, in halves, which will be easy. I can do it just like this. And then reinsert it. Oop, a little too hard on that one. Thread it out clockwise. Anyway, there's my hole. And my screw fits kind of snug through it. And there we have it. Ready to be installed. That's the whole project, using pieces I already had and some simple tools, not costing a fortune, and you know, not wasting materials. It's all good stuff. Doesn't need to be thrown away. I'll throw a picture up of the completed toes when I'm done. I'm gonna assemble these now.